I'm doing it. Woo! Okay. I don't know what's happening yet, but it looks like it might be. And there it goes. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Thursday. This is the last show for the week because tomorrow I'm on an airplane going to my brother's wedding. So, in all likelihood, cool things will happen while I'm mid-air and we'll have no internet access. And then I'll land in New Mexico and we'll be like, Arr! But, so don't expect a show from me until at least Tuesday because I will be on an airplane flying back on Monday. So, yeah. Anywho, people are finding BBBY tickers popping up back in their trading app accounts when they weren't there before. And since yesterday, several brokerages like IBKR have attached what's called a value tag to those tickers. And when people click on it, it gives them information that there may be some sort of corporate action with that ticker coming. So keep them fingers crossed, and those fingers crossed, thumbs twiddling, and we will move on with our day, hoping that something cool happens at some point. At the moment, Charles Gasparino's algo hack account is currently trying to mess with me, and it's fun. What's happening? Donald Trump decided to put some tariffs on Switzerland, namely on gold, because a lot of gold is refined in Switzerland. So there's now a 10% tariff on gold that's imported. I mean, I thought Donald Trump loves gold. Doesn't he love gold? Isn't he currently like painting the entire White House in gold? It's his thing. Tim Cook gave Trump a block of gold yesterday as some sort of gift with, it's like a base for some stupid thing, looks like a CD. That says like, Trump's awesome with an Apple logo. It's been speculated that Tim Cook just put a listening device into the White House with that, which would be hilarious if he did. Trump also came out with new statistics from his new Bureau of Labor Statistics showing that medium household income is actually up under Trump, and the jobs are up. So he got what was it his CFO from the Trump company who had to plead guilty and testify against Trump in all his trials. Weisenberg, who's a convicted felon and cooked Trump's books for years, is now in charge of cooking the books of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and doesn't know the difference between medium and median. So that's gonna bode well. Bode really well. Just in Texas, the Democrats have fled the state so that a quorum can't be made in the Texas legislature, so Texas can do essentially illegal redistricting of Texas to garner more House seats for Republicans. Trump pressured them to do that legislation. They spent the last 2 months basically having many meetings, eight meetings, I think, on redistricting, and only one meeting on the horrific floods that killed hundreds in Kerr County. So, you know exactly where their priorities lie on that one. Governor Abbott is trying to get them all arrested. John Cornyn, who's a senator from Texas, has asked Kash Patel and the FBI to hunt down and arrest all these people, even though that's clearly against the law. So, the authoritarianism is going forward. Now, Gavin Newsom said that if Texas goes through with this redistricting, that he will redistrict California so that there are no Republican seats, which would mean if Texas gains 5 seats in Texas, they're going to lose 9 in California. And other state governors have implied they would follow suit. It's very possible that Oregon, Washington, and Illinois and New York all would. So this is a war of attrition, basically, that the Republicans, I don't think, can win in the end, because Republican states are tiny and they don't have that many districts in comparison. And so if they get, even if they take the big Republican states like Florida and Texas and Ohio, they would not be able to make up for the seats that they would lose in the other blue states. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Everything to add? I'm just gonna do this one.
Houston, we have a problem.
Okay. Oh, turn it off. Turn it off, man. Chris Taylor, again, hi. First. James Perigo, first. Second. Dustin Height, second. Third. Louie, with some stickers. Dustin Height, I'm third. Lol. James Perigo, second. Nope. Oh, you were second. No, you were second. Yeah. Louie stickers. James Perigo, when BBBY go boom. I mean, it's all speculation. The fact that there are tags going onto the bonds and tags going onto the ticker and various brokerages might mean things could be culminating. I'm so used to getting burned on hype dates. I don't know when it will specifically go boom. The shills are super active again, which tells me that they're scared. They weren't very active for the past couple of months, but all of a sudden they're like out in force. All these accounts I've never heard of, they're like, you guys are always wrong. And it's like, bud, you're spending all day doing this and you're not invested at all? Like, what gives? Is this your entire hobby? You have nothing else to argue about? I mean, there's a guy in one of my mentions the other day who was talking about how, like, he's accepted it, his BBY stock is gone, just get over it, whatever. And you go back into his timeline and as far his accounts from 2022, and all I did was talk shit about investing in BBBY from 22 on. So, like, no, dude, you were never invested in the first place. So don't try to, like, gaslight me on that. The Algo Hack account is really interesting because, basically I said, hey, post name and face. And he's like, oh, I don't do that. I'm like, you don't have to, but, if you're just a giant poos, you won't post name and face there, Charles. My opinion is anonymous accounts people make anonymous accounts, they do things, but if you're going to be like an accusatory anonymous account of some kind, like, nut up and post name and face, because that way we can take you seriously. We know what's behind it. I post name and face. I'll take all the flack people give. I'm not a giant poos. I can take it. I'm a big boy. I'm a big strong man. I could take criticism. I could take people in person coming up to me in the street and going and yelling in my face. I'm not scared. I'm not a little scared baby. So, yeah. Post name and face there, Algo Hack. Let us know exactly who's behind your account and where everything comes from. Just put it out there. Just lay it out there. Lay it out there. Other people are willing to do it. Why aren't you? Charles Gasparino? Juice Miami's throwing out some lurker fishings. Who we got? We got Bacon, Steve Alot. Well, that's a new one. Chillface. Oh my God, Heather Jenna, and Tony Unomi. So that's at least two, because I don't know the Tony Unomi. So he says Tony Unomi, but I don't know Tony Unomi. And Steve Alot. So you got 40% return on that one. Nice catch there. So, yeah. Woo! Okay. All right. Where am I? That's nice. Like and subscribe. Ben and Wells, sub BBY to sub No Labs. Like I said before, BBY ticker doing some weird things for not existing anymore. No Labs sent out the announcement that their acquisition between Greg Kidd and their Bitcoin acquisition, $125 million Bitcoin acquisition, has gone through. They've not said anything about the $700 and something million in dilution, or 700 million shares in dilution they're going to do. But I mean, if they do that much dilution, I guess they'll have cash on hand, right? So there'll be that, but the stock price will be like, so again, I'm going to wait until they do a reverse split and then I'm getting back in, hopefully. Burp. Snurler, upvote chat. I don't actually know what upvoting chat means. That's just me hitting the like button. Snurtler, overnight reverse repo hits lowest since April. What was going on in April where banks needed a lot of cash? Was it the complete collapse of the SPY? So it looks like we're probably heading towards that range again. I forgot another tariff thing Trump did. Trump decided he's got an agreement with Japan, which he actually doesn't have an agreement with Japan, but there's like a framework to an agreement that's been made. But he decided that the 15% tariffs that Japan was going to get with this agreement isn't enough, and he just slapped them with another 15% tariffs arbitrarily. So what's the point of doing any negotiating with Trump at this point? Like, we had a negotiation between the United States and Korea for 0% tariffs on both sides, and he still slapped South Korea. Still slapped South Korea with tariffs. We had an agreement with Mexico and Canada making tariffs illegal that he painstakingly negotiated during his first term, and he just threw that out the window and slapped tariffs on them anyway. So there's really no benefit in doing negotiations at all with Trump. Like, these companies, they're just going to wait him out. All these nations, they're going to wait him out. They're going to be like, okay, in 3 years, he'll be gone, and we'll just move on with our lives then. We'll just put a pause button, just put a little pin in that. And then everything will go back to normal again. At least that's what I think they're hoping. So, yeah. Bitcoin, blah. That's all I have to say about the situation. Word. Corporate Walnut, nothing's coming. Get more thumbs. We need to twiddle. Kelly Reed, happy birthday. Can't read. Happy birthday, HW. Anyone seen RFK saying that he's at war with fat kids? RFK said a lot of weird things. He said yesterday that you can cure schizophrenia with the right diet. No, you can't cure schizophrenia with the right diet. Schizophrenia is genetic. So, there you go. He also canceled mRNA vaccine research and mRNA vaccine research, specifically into cancer vaccines. So everything contains mRNA. You have it in you, or food has it in you, trees, bunnies, monkey butts, whatever. They all have mRNA. Now, what the mRNA strands are particular parts of a genetic code for cells, viruses, etc. And if you get the body recognizing one as an invader, you can train your helper T cells and your antibodies into identifying and attacking it. So what they've found with several of these mRNA cancer vaccines is that you have an mRNA tag for mutation of cancer cell, and you inject that into somebody. The body goes, this shouldn't be here, and they immediately put up the wanted dead or alive poster in the post office down there at the old antibody town. And whenever they see that, they attack it. And your body's actually producing cancer cells way more often than you think, and your immune system is attacking those cells. It's when a cancer is formed that your immune system is not prepared for, or doesn't recognize, or doesn't know to recognize, that's when it can get out of hand. So you're going to get cancers more likely in people with like AIDS, like immune suppression problems, folks who've gotten organ transplants, liver, kidney, heart, lungs, whatever, because they take chemicals to suppress their immune system so the immune system doesn't attack the new organ. And then what happens is the immune system gets so suppressed that these cancers that would normally be attacked by the immune system end up growing, which is why folks who have transplants generally die from a cancer 10 to 15 years in after their transplants. And it's something that folks who have transplants, they've got to come to terms with. I have a very good friend who has a heart transplant. He is now 11 years into, or a little more than 10 years into that transplant. And, this is an existential crisis he deals with every day, knowing that at some point his body is going to betray him because the drugs he has to take to suppress his immune system. So if you can train your body with mRNA vaccines, you can wipe out cancer. You can just wipe it out. Especially if you can identify the types of mutations that happen in all these different types of cancers. There's hundreds or thousands of types of cancers that people get. And we can make a vaccine for every single one of them if need be. We can be like fucking Star Trek. But no. Because Captain Brainworm doesn't know what the fuck is going on. He's canceling all research into that. So the United States is going to get left behind as all these researchers and doctors and medical professionals flee the United States to go to nations that will allow them to continue this research. And then those nations are going to dominate the medical field. All the pharmaceutical research is going to go on there. Big biotech firms are going to start up, and the United States can get left in the dust as a result. So it's just fucking RFK, man. Absolute clown. And Kelly Reed. 10-year Treasury yields rise after weak auction. U.S. manufacturing posts worst contraction in 9 months. Yeah, both the 3-year auction Monday? 3-year auction Monday and the 10-year yesterday. And the 3-year auction was supposed to do like 250 billion. And they got through like 60 billion and they realized there were going to be no more bidders and they just stopped. Same thing happened yesterday with the 10-year auction, is that they got to about $45 billion in bonds, and the yields were about to spike because no one was bidding, so they just canceled the auction. So the only way they're keeping bond yields from like going through the roof right now is by not offering any money, but the U.S. government needs the money. The Fed has already said they're not going to bid on these auctions, that they'll buy up, errant bonds here and there in the secondary market, but they're not going to go into the auctions and buy up this stuff. I don't think they quite have the capital to do that at the moment, and it would also keep interest rates too low for the inflationary environment we're going into. So I think the Fed is like, no. They'll go to the market and they'll probably buy up really low interest rate ones and take those out so that collectively interest rates are higher across the board. But beyond that, bond yields are going to be really, really, really bad. If you don't know how Treasury auctions work, basically you sell off blocks of these Treasury bonds. And the bid is how much interest rate are you willing to take to take on the credit, right? And if no one's bidding, then there's no competition and the interest rates keep going up. Like anyone for 4%, anyone 5%, anyone 6, 7. It's sort of like if you go to an auction and there's an item that no one wants and they're like $1,000 and no one bids, so like $400, $300, we'll start at $25, $10. Oh, like that's what's happening at our Treasury auctions, is that we're just getting roasted because the international buyers are not there. The international buyers are like 40% of who bids at these auctions. If the Fed's not participating, if international buyers are not participating, and soon if they privatize Social Security will no longer be bidding. So they're going to lose 75% of those who purchase U.S. Treasuries. Interest rates are going to go through the roof. The U.S. is going to be paying a fortune on our debt just to facilitate the interest rates. So it's all just. If only there was like an economist in the government, just one, rather than like these weird clowns that we have who have no expertise in any of this stuff. I am not anywhere near an expert in macroeconomics or in how treasury auctions work or facilitating national debt. But even I know more than everyone who's working at this stuff currently. Who's going to fix it? Pulte? No. Pulte wants to artificially drop rates and create a massive stagflation environment. It's stupid. It's really, really dumb. So at least we got Powell until May of next year, and then all bets are off. I totally assume that somebody completely incompetent will come in May of next year, and hopefully the rest of the Fed board is able to like stuff them into, I don't know, an ottoman or something and keep them there. Okay. Chris Taylor, hi Houston. What are your thoughts on allowing alternative assets into 401ks and what unexpected consequences result? Oh yes, Trump is now announced that 401ks can start investing in crypto and other, non-standard things. I think the biggest problem is going to be is that crypto is a positive beta investment, meaning it follows the market, but it follows the market at like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, which means when the market crashes, it crashes 3 to 4 times as much. And so and it means your recovery may wipe you out entirely, especially if it's things like Luna or whatever that you may have invested into. So you invest into your 401k and you buy a whole bunch of shit coins, you buy Bitcoin, you buy whatever. An economic crash comes. So the Dow drops 30 to 50%. That sucks, right? Like, oh shit. But you still get dividends and annuities and everything else if you are invested in that stuff. And it will climb right back up in a year or two, be as high or higher than it ever was. Crypto, on the other hand, crypto will crash 80%, 90%, 99% when that happens. Just imagine, like, a couple years ago, Bitcoin went to $18,000, right? And then it dropped to 3. That's one sixth of what it was. So it dropped 85% essentially. Okay. Now imagine 2021 comes on. Bitcoin hits $69,000, $70,000. A few months later, it's back down to 15. Oh, that's another like 80% drop in value. Huh. Oh, it climbed back up. Okay, it's back up to 100 and whatever thousand. If we get to a point where the market collapses, it crashes. It's done. It's going to take a little while to climb out of. All of the consolidation of crypto, specifically Bitcoin, and 97% of Bitcoin is owned by less than 1% of wallets. It's a higher concentration of wealth in those few hands than pretty much any other commodity, security, equity anywhere in existence. So a lot of those folks, they have the Bitcoin, but they're over leveraged in traditional markets. So they've got heavy margin in other markets. So the stock market drops. They lose their value on their blue chips, on their bonds, etc. And they now get a margin call, and they need liquidity. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to sell off all of their crypto, and they're going to leave you all as bag holders on that because they need the cash to maintain their legit side of the business. If more than, say, $4 or $5 billion gets pulled out of Bitcoin, that's enough to cause the money that's tied up in US dollar Tether coin to be gone. And if people can't redeem their Tether coin for cash, then Tether is worthless. And 50-something% of all Bitcoin transactions are done using Tether. Tether has a market cap of like $170+ billion. And they can only find the reserves for about 3 cents on the dollar of that. Because the rest of it, I don't think ever existed, personally. They won't let anybody do an actual audit of Tether's holdings. At best, you can get attestation, which means they go to, like, I don't know, KPMG or something and say, hey, this is what we say we have. Can you sign that saying that we said that? And they go, sure. That's the best they can get out of Tether. Because it appears that Tether just mints Tether coins out of thin air. They're worth 1-to-1 with the US dollar, right? And they go out and they buy billions of dollars in Bitcoin with it. So whenever you see Tether mint, a couple $1 billion in Tether, instantaneously you see this huge spike in Bitcoin. But if Tether doesn't mint anything for a while, Bitcoin comes down because almost all the buy pressure comes from the minting of Tether to buy Bitcoin. That's where the majority of buy pressure comes from. There's a study done a couple years ago that showed there was like a 247% correlation between minting Tether and the price of Bitcoin. So, these guys, they're pulling money out of thin air, putting into Bitcoin, and then probably selling that Bitcoin for other assets in the process, and then absconding with that stuff. So, yeah, I think Trump is definitely making it so it's going to be very hard for anybody to have any sort of guaranteed retirement income at this point, because they're going to folks are bad enough investing in their 401ks. Like, they don't have enough knowledge or information to know what the hell to invest in, and hopefully they just put it in index funds and forget it, because trying to figure out anything else for most folks is a disaster. But now they can be like, well, my grandson said I'm supposed to get Bitcoin. I don't know how to do that, so I'll try to figure it out. And some like Nigerian prince can come along and be like, I can help you do with Bitcoin. You just send it to this account. And tell me your seed phrases and I'll help you out. And people are just going to get absolutely raked over the coals on all of that. So I think it's silly. I think it's really silly. And it's going to bite us in the ass because, it always will. Juice Mammy, Trump's excessive beef with Switzerland is bizarre. I have a feeling that Swiss banks either wouldn't do business with Trump or told him they wouldn't give him loans. And so he's just always mad at Switzerland. That'd be my guess. Jason Blackwell, hey, Houston. I saw Trump team hosting an Epstein strategy dinner. Call me crazy, but do innocent people need a strategy to stay innocent? Yeah, and they denied it. So I think more than anything, it wasn't so much a strategy meeting as more as a meeting of the 25th Amendment Club. Because in order to enact the 25th Amendment against Trump and put J.D. Vance in power, you need the vice president, so J.D.'s there, and you need a majority of the cabinet to attest that Trump is unfit for office. And so I think that was more Rupert Murdoch gave the nod to J.D. a little while ago when he had that private meeting with him in Dillon, Montana. And that's when the Wall Street Journal posted the article about Trump's weird birthday message. And it's since been trickling out that we've got more and more information that's dirty. And other news outlets are now starting to like feast on that bone as well. I wouldn't doubt if JD 25th Amendment's Trump before Christmas. Especially if the market really goes south. They're going to want someone to blame. And Peter Thiel wants his guy in there. Trump's a wild card. Peter Thiel can't control Trump, but Peter Thiel can control J.D. Vance. So that's his boy. Nismo Spec 36, also BBYQ holder. Whoa. And 9, what the fuck, a show? Yeah, sorry I didn't get a show done yesterday. I've had the things that I had to get done in order to do the trip to New Mexico. Jimmy D, we love you. I love you too, Jimmy D. And 9, gotta get back to start. Be right back. Woo. Senegal. What are we buying after BBY payment comes through? Probably GME and GME calls. I mean, if the payment goes through the way that swap details, meaning you get a 1-for-1 in GME shares or equivalent, right? You get 10,000 shares of BBBY. You'll get 10,000 shares of GME out of it, plus probably a cash component of whatever the waterfall is left over. And the waterfall could get even larger if instead of cash, the bondholders receive equity instead. So, oh, the cat, you monster. Why can't you just go outside and play? Why do you come in here and bother me, huh? What's up with it? Why do you like me so much? Huh? Yeah? You come in here and you're going to bother me and like lick up your drugs. There's so many drugs over here. Look at all that. Right there. Look at that. It's everywhere. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So if it works out in super diabolical mode, meaning, right? This is something I posed. I kind of talked about a little bit on the other day in the show, and then I posed the question to some of the more in-depth BBBY due diligence folks. Look at Hudson Bay Capital. Hudson Bay Capital had hundreds of millions of these warrants, right, that they exercised and they got shares for. Now they're being sued for violation of their agreements. They weren't supposed to have more than 10%, blah, blah, blah. And Hudson Bay is like, no, those aren't ours. Yes, they got executed, but they're not ours, right? So whose are they? They're obviously a proxy for someone. And if they're a proxy for someone, who is that someone? And what did they do with all those shares? Because they're not listed in any of the large holders. Because remember, everyone at 4.5% or more had to list themselves and had to say they weren't going to sell, basically. They're like, no, you can't sell. You're stuck in bankruptcy with these shares, and you're stuck. So let's say that GME / Ryan Cohen were the proxies for that. And they picked these things up at like 30 cents a share, 40 cents a share, whatever it might be. Right? But it was more the market rate at the time. So they probably spent $100 million, something like that on these. We know that GME had shares in a company that they were forced to take a loss on even though it hadn't sold. That was in one of their filings. And let's say that they bought those hundreds of millions of shares. Let's say they bought even more while it was Q stock and didn't have to report because it's in bankruptcy. You don't have to report that crap once it's in bankruptcy. So they buy up millions upon millions upon millions, hundreds of millions, quadrillions, whatever. And they decide to nuke all those shares because they control the company via dip in FILO financing anyway. So they don't need the shares to control the company. They have them. So they just nuke the float. So the float is gone. Basically, the only shares that exist were the ones that were direct registered in AST. Those are the only legit shares. And everything else in everyone's accounts, they're all counterfeits. They're all IOUs from shorts, right? So what if that means the float is like 40 million shares, maybe even less? I don't know how many were in AST. Probably wasn't even that much. Probably was like 10 million shares in AST. Shall we calculator game it? Let's where's my calculator? I lost my calculator game. Calculator game, there it is. Boop. Oh, shoot. I turned off calculator game. Boink. Boink. Calculator. Calculator. Okay. There it is. Why don't you want calculator? Where are you? Earth. Prime calculator. Yeah, calculator. 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 Why is it not? Calculator? Where are you? There it is. Oh, all right. Okay, so 10 million shares left at AST. That's the true, legit, whatever's left, because GME nuked everything else. Remember, we're in speculation station. It's all pure speculation here. So GME nuked the 700 million shares, whatever, from the float because they bought them all up at 7 cents on the dollar, whatever. And they just got them. They just got them all, and they went, buy. So, when that comes to waterfall, $1.5 billion or so are owed to creditors at this point. But if those creditors receive equity instead of cash, then all the cash that's in the estate, that stays in the estate and goes to the shareholders in the end, the actual equity holders. So if you have a whole bunch of bonds and they give out the bonds, they give them, say, 30-something shares per $1,000 in bonds, and that's what you get instead of your 2.5% cash payout. Well, you are made whole and you have to accept it. You now have equity in GameStop or whatever the acquiring company is. Okay, now it comes time to pass out that cash. So I have no clue how much they've made in cash from their settlement agreements, but my guess is it's in the billions, right? Pay off some cash to a couple of the administrative claims and whatnot. That's chump change basically compared to what they have in total. And if the settlement for the lawsuit against the board is in that crazy 11.8 billion range, right? Or anywhere from a couple billion to that range, that's some serious money. You got another probably billion for the lawsuits with all the shippers. They're going to want to settle because if they go to trial, the damages are 3 times what was lost to fraud originally. So if you are suing for $300 million, you're going to get $900 million or more from damages if this goes to trial. So they want to settle. And they probably will not settle for the $900 million, but they'll be like, we'll give you $650. And then they say, okay. So it's more than what you were asking for. So it's probably $1 billion or $2 billion in those claims. All right. So let's say it's $12 billion is what they got. 12 billion. Right? So 12 billion. And there's 10 million shares left after GME nuked them all. So that's just what was in AST. Those are the legit shares, the authorized shares. Everything else in all those accounts were generated by shorts. So the 10,000, 15,000 you might have in your account, the 60,000, the 4 million that someone like Ramaz Jamali has, those are all illegitimate counterfeit shares. They'll be owed PILs. So there's 10 million left. Boom, 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 boom. Shaboom. That's a $1,200 payout per share at that number. So if there's like 4 or 5 billion counterfeit shares out there, they're looking at several $1 trillion in liability off of that. So if you want to make this thing super diabolical, you make it so they got to start going out in the market for all the counterfeit bonds. So there's lots of counterfeit bonds that were made as well. You got to go out in the market and you got to find 30 shares for every bond of GME. And there's, how many, there's 1.5 billion in bonds. So That's 150,000. No, 1.5 million, right? Oops. 1.5 million bonds in total. Okay. So you divide that by, let's say 35. They got to go find, multiply by 35. Damn it. I went the wrong way in that one. Clear. 150,000 times 35. So now they got to go in the market and find 52 million shares. Or 52 million shares have to be issued to those guys. And if they made 2 or 3 times that many, then they have to go find 150 million shares. The buy pressure starts to go insane on GameStop. But now you have all the shareholders themselves who get a 1-for-1. So there's 10 million shares, let's say in this speculation station example. 10 million shares go from the Treasury of GameStop to the shareholders, the AST folks who are direct registered, and everyone else has now owed PIL. So now they got to go find billions of shares of GameStop to make good, which all of a sudden you are now having to purchase the float 10, 20 times over in order to make good on that. So the buy pressure starts to get insane. And on top of that, if you issue warrants to all those shareholders, they get a 1-for-1 warrant, and you make the price of the strike price of the warrant at, I don't know, $15 or something. Then everyone gets an extra $10 in value in all those warrants. And as the stock price climbs because of all this buy pressure, the warrant value climbs as well. And they have to provide those warrants to all those shareholders that they created. And so they got to go buy that stuff, 10, 20 times over. So this can really quickly spiral everything out of control. If this is how they're doing it, it's really diabolical and would actually create the conditions to just vaporize every market maker and short hedge fund in existence. I don't know if they have the balls to do this, if they had the vision to do this much, because just doing the merger acquisition at straight value, that would probably still do a lot of damage. But if you can make it so that the cash component is absolutely freakishly large, so that someone who has 10,000 shares is finding themselves with like $12 million all of a sudden, they're going to take a huge chunk of that thing and they're going to buy $7, $8, $9 million of in the money call options. They're going to do it, Roaring Kitty style. And that's going to create a gamma ramp on top of the huge volume needed to be able to make good on all this stuff. It's interesting. Possibilities are really interesting in there. I want the speculations to become reality. I'm tired of speculating. just make it happen already. I'm so tired of speculating. So, crap, I turned off yesterday's intro. Okay, turn that off. I made it like 2 days. 2 days is how long I can make it. So, anyway, I think people are going to buy a lot of GME call options, and they're going to compound whatever wealth they have by an immense fortune. Just imagine you have all of a sudden like 100,000 Roaring Kitties buying in the money call options on the market. Weird things would happen, man. So, Jimmy D, pray for all my 2026 $300 SPY puts. If we drop back to where we were at the end of March, where the SPY got to 484, you'll probably 3 or 4x all those suckers, even if it doesn't make it all the way to $300. So, yeah. Nismo Spec 36, do you think gold tariffs will affect silver positively? People might go to silver because there's really thin margins on actual trade of gold. If you're selling gold, you're getting a spot price, which is going to be like 5% less than market price. And then you buy it at a 5% premium from a gold seller. And, so yeah, if you're losing 15% on a gold sale, you have to wait for gold to really spike in order to make money off of it. I wouldn't doubt if folks who are regular gold buyers instead go to something like silver that doesn't have a weird arbitrary tariff put on it. So yeah, it's Good thought. Loby super chats. Remember what was attributed to ICANN. He's planning something they will never forget. Your thoughts on him being a part of it? I think it's very possible. He has done similar, quite diabolical plans in the past that has absolutely just nuked people who were against him, purely out of spite. I mean, what he did to Ackman was a pure spite play. And I don't think he actually believed in Herbalife as a company. I think Herbalife's a shit MLM company that makes garbage and destroys lives. But Carl Icahn jumped on the other side of it because he hates Bill Ackman that much. And lost Bill Ackman over $1 billion just out of just pure unadulterated rage. And I have little doubt that ICANN has something planned. I'm really curious because they've been issuing a lot of bonds the past couple of years, and a lot of them are really high interest rates. I don't know what their plan is, and it seems to be that the bonds are being sold oftentimes to Carl Icahn himself. So, like, hey, we're issuing $500 million of bonds at 10% interest. ICANN ends up owning all those bonds, so he's putting cash like crazy into this thing for whatever it is he's doing. And I wish I knew what component ICANN had in this. If they wanted an everything squeeze for sure, you definitely want to make it so that shareholders in BBBY get multiple tickers off this thing. And if you have to give a 1-for-1, that's a 1-for-1 for multiple tickers. And then whatever umbrella is formed from that, these folks get it 4, 5, 6, 7 times over. So I really hope he is part of this. I think that whatever Carl and Brett have planned would be as diabolical as the next thing. Adonsu Shadem, will there be a civil war? I don't know, honestly. I think odds are greater than at any time since the actual Civil War for that to happen. But just looking at data, like ICE numbers are actually down. They're absconding with fewer and fewer people, not for lack of trying each day, but mostly because folks show up to block them and scream at them and yell at them and demand things. And the recruitment numbers are abysmal. Remember, they're giving $50,000 bonuses and like forgiving student loans. People still aren't responding and showing up to the job. And so now they're upping that to like a $70,000 bonus. So they're desperately trying to get folks to become ICE officers. And I think they got all the sociopaths who will take that job. Meanwhile, career ICE officers are quitting in disgust. So they're actually having attrition versus bringing more people in. So now FEMA has to go and they're forcibly reassigning folks from FEMA to ICE. And if they don't agree to that reassignment, they're automatically fired. So I think if there is going to be some sort of civil war, it's going to be really hard to find the numbers you need on the side of the Gestapo at this point. There's no positive news coming out for these ICE raids. It's mostly horror stories. Like the ICE raid where Kristi Noem like cosplayed, and she did, and it was ended up like raiding a pregnant woman who's a citizen and all her kids. That pregnant woman yesterday got arrested in ICE raid when ICE jumped out of the back of a Penske truck and just swarmed the parking lot of a Lowe's or a Home Depot or something. And that pregnant lady who's a U.S. citizen, she got arrested and hauled away. So they finally got her a woman, right? A U.S. citizen. And Penske was like, "What the fuck are you doing with our trucks? This is against the law and our policy." And that Penske truck move is very reminiscent of Patriot Front Nazis. They love to like drive Penske trucks and budget trucks and U-Hauls en masse and like go drive up and get a bunch of people. So at this point, you see ICE guys and Penske trucks, just put a padlock on the back. let them cook in there. Yeah. Always have a padlock or two in your glove box, just in case the Patriot Front shows up in some U-Hauls or whatever. You know what to do. Yeah. So Civil War, there may be some sort of attempt at it, but I think most people at this point are so disillusioned. I mean, a poll came out from, I think, of Ipsos today, showing that among MAGA, these are the Trump like sycophants. 84%, 83% of them want to see the Epstein files released, unadulterated. Just let us see what's in them. It's only a 6-7% difference between registered Democrats and verifiable MAGA. 90% of Democrats want them out. So my guess is that the 10% of Democrats and the 17% of Republicans who don't want to release, that's probably your pedophile crowd. So, no one wants to be seen defending pedos anyway. Just release information. Let us see who these criminals are and who's in it, and we're all good. Yeah. Steve a lot AOL startup disc. We're talking about the gift, the little gold base with the CD-ROM there. Bacon PP about to be reenacting Hawk to a girl once he dumps his coins. Probably. It better be for the millions, PP. It better be just an absolute shitload fortune, because there's no sense in like selling your soul for a few grand. I've said in the past, this right here, this will be replaced with a Kenny G album cover. Smooth jazz album cover will be right there if I ever sell out. And my price for selling out is a lifetime of luxury. And like making 10, 20K off of a shitcoin rug pull is not a lifetime of luxury. Like, you want me to sing your songs? Pay up, dude. I need some serious scratch. We're talking enough that if I put it into a Vanguard account, I live very healthily off the annuities for the rest of my life and never have to worry about doing anything again. So that's probably starting at, in the millions of dollars. So you want me to sell out millions of bucks. Otherwise, no, I'm going to be annoying, and I will gladly have, whatever shit ratings I have on YouTube. Like, it's just it's not worth it. It's not worth it to destroy yourself for something like that. You better really make a huge chunk of change and just disappear and let it go that way. But because if it's for pennies, like, I remember after Katrina, the mayor of New Orleans got busted taking like a $90,000 bribe. $90,000, like 1 year's salary for an upper middle class person in 2005. That's what you are going to go to prison for the rest of your life. If you're gonna get busted for a bribe, you got to make it in the millions, man. You got to make it so that you can skip town before anyone realizes what happened. Like, there's no sense in doing the crime and the risk for like what was effectively chump change for actual rich people. So, Oren Linville super chats. Thoughts on Jay Powell being the last strong pillar propping up this economy? Will he make it to May 2026? Then G me uptime. Jay Powell 100% is the last strong pillar holding up this economy, because there are nothing but crony loyalists everywhere else who have no idea how to do their jobs. I think one of Jay Powell's biggest regrets was not raising rates in 2019 like he should have, and listening to the White House and like holding back on rate raises, and because the economy is already coming to a bubble at that point. And then when COVID hit, we didn't have the tool of cutting rates to spur liquidity because rates were already too low. So you cut them, but it really didn't make much effect because it was at 1.5%. So you cut it to 0, and then what? Like, that's not enough. If you go from like 6% to 0, that makes a huge difference in everything in the economy. So as a result, we had to just print. And we printed trillions to be able to basically buy our way out of a slumping economy. And we printed more money in 2020 than we had in the previous 250 years combined of the U.S. government. We just printed so much money in cash and sent it out to be able to just keep any semblance of an economy going. And COVID shut down everything. Like factories in China, factories in Japan, factories in Australia, factories everywhere were shut down. So the supply chain was neutered. But at least during the lockdowns, the demand wasn't there. But as the vaccines came out and people started to reemerge and demand started to rise and factories started to open up again, then all of a sudden the supply chain could not match the amount of cash that was in the economy. So Jay Powell kept the reverse repos really strong for a long time, kept $2 trillion in there. He raised rates to slow down money supply to keep people from going out and just spending, causing inflation to be even greater on top of the supply chain issues we already had. And that's what reduced overall inflation was those moves. And the Biden administration knew it had to be done. Jay Powell knew it had to be done. And now inflation is going back up with all these arbitrary tariffs. Jay Powell can't cut rates. He just can't until everything collapses. And everything will collapse because exports are way down. We're not creating any new jobs outside of like healthcare, and healthcare is going to collapse because of Medicaid cuts. And we're printing money like crazy at the federal government level, but no one will buy our bonds, so that money's not actually being generated. And yeah, so I think Jay Powell makes it to May 2026 unless somebody takes care of him. But after that, whoever they put in there, the only way they're going to get that job is if they're going to say, yes, I will slash rates and make them negative. And then Trump will be, very good. And that'll be it. So, yeah. Bitcoin. Working for ICE will be a curse that will follow you in your entire life. People will curse you and your family. Yeah. I think the only people at this point who should get jobs with ICE are folks who are going to destroy it from the inside. If you go get a job with ICE and you get your $70,000 bonus and they forgive all of your student debt and then you just don't do your job, fan-fucking-tastic, right? Let's say you get a job with ICE. You are a dirty little insider who's a double agent for the rest of the population, double agent for humanity. And you get your job with ICE, and instead of going to like a Walmart and rounding people up, you make a mission and you go hit Star Key in Miami, and you arrest some billionaires and just disappear them for a while. Right? Work for the people. Be like, oh, it was a big mistake. I didn't mean to arrest that billionaire. Oh well. You go hit some people in the Hamptons. Go arrest them. Be like, oh, my big mistake. I didn't really realize that Portia here was Mayflower descendant. Oops, she had to spend 3 weeks at a detention center in the meantime. If you hit these folks and you disappear some billionaires, there will be some absolute carnage that happens as a result of all that. Laws will get passed about all the face masks and warrantless everything. Go hit the people who matter. And that'd be great. And I will be all for you having your student loans forgiven and getting giant cash bonuses for signing up. So by all means, if you're going to join ICE, do it to destroy it from the inside. Be a double agent for humanity. Do that. Yes. And everyone else at ICE, or at least document all the crimes that all of your coworkers are doing. Be like, oh, okay, I'm going to document that crime so that when we have our Nuremberg trials, I can sit on the stand and say, yeah, that guy did that. Here's the camera footage. Here's the attestation. Here's his movements. So maybe a couple of double agents in there. It'd be a really great job if you're a journalist. Oh, if you were like a journalist at New York Times or something. And you go get a job with ICE and you report from the inside. Ooh, that would be pretty amazing. Someone at the New York Times or McClatchy or something should do that. That'd be one hell of some gonzo journalism, man. That would be Pulitzer Prize. That would be go down in history as one of the greatest journos of all time. So, do that. Okay. I got 4 minutes, and I do have to run away exactly at 4:30 today because I gotta go to my mom's house, get things ready for her to go on the trip to the wedding and all that stuff. Okay. Shelly Schleif's the gold Apple battery never needs recharging. The gold iPhone can carry sound and video through everything, including solid gold. RFK vaccine cuts. The brain drain continues. Come to Canada. Yes. Sir Alert. I say, let Gavin Newsom off the chain. It's not just the U.S. who needs someone like him. Let's fight fire with fire. Yeah, we basically have our own psychopath all chained up ready to go, and you just take that lead off, and he's gonna go nuts. It'll just be like two psychopath Mothra Godzillas going at each other. It'll be at least entertaining for everybody. Nemo Spec 36 PP coin funds Michael's options gambling. Kelly Reed, what's your prediction to the mini catalyst to ignite a crash now that Trump administration will be fudging the numbers on employment and market slowdown? Much of the beef with the government of Argentina was that they fudged numbers when it came to like jobs and things like that, and that the reality did not reflect the numbers they were giving, and thus inflation went out of control. Once you start lying about how many jobs are out there, and you start cutting rates and doing other things that spur more cash in the environment, you are going to create an instant bubble and a gigantic crash afterwards, but then you won't have the quantitative easing tools available to you to get out of that. Meaning the crash happens, but there's still too much money in the economy. But the dollar value is worthless, and you don't have rates you can cut to strengthen everything. So you're going to end up with basically like a toothless guard dog at that point. They can gum you, and then that's about it. You can pet them on the head, and they're going to be really angry about it. So the only way to get out of it is to drastically raise rates and do austerity, which you can't do austerity in the middle of an economic crash. That defeats the entire purpose of being in a Keynesian environment. Like, normally you have to be like, okay, we need to get everybody employed. We got to get money into the economy. But if you're already suffering like runaway inflation, that's going to cause, infinite inflation, and you're going to be like Zimbabwe. So it's really setting up a really, really terrible outcome with almost no way to get out without just killing people at that point. Just starvation and homelessness and Hoover towns and Hoovervilles, whatever you want to call it. It'll be really bad. Really, really bad. Lisa Saw, a headless corpse was found in Hong Kong this week. It was a gruesome high-rise suicide where the man's head was crushed into the chest cavity from the impact of the fall. Okay, that sounds awful. I don't recommend looking at those photos. Oh, it's time for me to go. Okay, I'll see you guys Tuesday. Maybe if I can get away for a moment while I'm on the road with the phone, I can do like a little show. I don't know if I can. I'll be spending time with family. But if you are in New Mexico and you can find your way to Santa Fe Tuesday afternoon, let's do lunch. Cool? All right. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. You folks have a great rest of your week. I hope things happen and we can pop confetti and wear hats and do all that stuff. Okay. All right. Everybody, later skaters.